The night rain blurred the city lights as Daniel Harper sat alone on a park bench, his hands shaking from exhaustion, wondering if love was just another promise life enjoyed breaking after taking everything else first. He had buried his wife 3 years earlier, buried his dreams shortly after, and every night since then felt like a quiet test of how much a man could lose and still wake up the next morning for his child. In that fragile moment, love did not feel like hope. It felt like a risk he could not afford. Before the story unfolds further, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and the quiet strength it takes to keep going when life feels unbearable, please take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, comment your thoughts, and subscribe to the channel. And tell us in the comments where you are watching from, because stories like this connect hearts across the world. Daniel Harper had not planned to become a single father at 32. Life had once been simple, filled with ordinary dreams of promotions, vacations, and laughter echoing through a home that smelled like coffee and fresh laundry. Then illness arrived like an uninvited storm, fast and unforgiving. Within months, his wife was gone, leaving behind a small boy named Oliver who clutched Daniel's finger at the funeral as if it were the only solid thing left in the world. From that day on, Daniel learned how silence could scream, how empty rooms could ache, and how grief could settle into a man's bones without ever fully leaving. Every morning before sunrise, Daniel prepared Oliver for school, tying shoes with fingers stiff from fatigue and packing lunches while fighting the constant fear that he was not enough. He worked as a junior operations analyst at a large logistics company, a job that paid just enough to keep the lights on and food on the table. His boss, Evelyn Carter, was known throughout the company for her sharp intelligence and unyielding standards. People admired her from a distance and feared disappointing her up close. To Daniel, she was simply the woman whose approval he needed to keep his job and protect his son's fragile sense of security. Daniel rarely spoke at work unless spoken to. Grief had made him cautious, and fatherhood had made him tired. He stayed late when others left early, volunteered for tasks no one wanted, and quietly absorbed stress without complaint. Evelyn noticed these things, though she never said it aloud. She saw the way Daniel rubbed his temples before meetings, how his eyes softened when his phone buzzed with a message from his son's school, and how he carried responsibility like a weight he refused to put down. Life outside work was a cycle of school runs, grocery lists, bedtime stories, and nights spent staring at the ceiling while memories replayed without permission. Daniel told himself that love was dangerous now, something that could take everything again if he let it. He believed that surviving meant staying closed, staying focused, staying alone. That belief worked, until it didn't. The first crack appeared when Oliver fell sick one winter and Daniel missed an important deadline. Panic followed him into Evelyn's office, his heart pounding with the certainty that he had failed. Instead of anger, he encountered understanding. Not the shallow kind, but the quiet, steady kind that did not demand explanations. That moment lingered with him long after, confusing and unsettling. It reminded him of something he thought he had lost forever, being seen. Weeks turned into months, and subtle changes began to shape his days. Evelyn started assigning Daniel more responsibility, trusting him with projects that mattered. Late evenings at the office became moments of shared silence rather than pressure, the kind where two people worked side by side, each aware of the other without needing words. Daniel felt something stirring beneath his carefully built walls, something both terrifying and warm. He fought it fiercely. Every time he sensed closeness, he reminded himself of hospital hallways, of promises broken by fate, of the unbearable weight of explaining loss to a child too young to understand it. Love, he told himself, was always a risk. And risk was a luxury he no longer had. But life has a way of challenging the stories we tell ourselves. When Oliver's school announced a father-son event, Daniel hesitated. He had always managed alone, but the idea of being surrounded by intact families reopened old wounds. Evelyn noticed the strain in him that week, the way he seemed smaller, quieter. She offered flexibility without making it a favor, and Daniel felt gratitude mix with something deeper, something dangerously close to trust. The turning point came on an ordinary evening when work ran late and rain flooded the streets. Daniel panicked when he realized Oliver was waiting at a neighbor's house, scared and tired. He rushed through the storm, soaked and breathless, guilt crushing his chest. That night, after Oliver finally slept, Daniel sat in his car outside their apartment and cried for the first time in years. Not the silent tears of survival, but the breaking kind that demanded release. The next day, Daniel arrived at work hollowed out, barely holding himself together. Evelyn noticed immediately. She did not offer solutions or platitudes. She offered presence. In that quiet moment, Daniel finally allowed himself to admit what he had been carrying alone. He spoke of fear, of loss, of the constant pressure of being everything for someone else while feeling like nothing himself. It was the most vulnerable he had been since his wife's passing. Something shifted between them then. It was not dramatic or sudden. It was slow and careful, like two people learning how to walk on fragile ground without causing it to break. Daniel began to understand that love did not always arrive loudly. Sometimes it came as patience. Sometimes it came as respect. Sometimes it came as someone choosing to stay even when staying was inconvenient. As months passed, Daniel's life began to change in small but profound ways. He smiled more, slept better, and laughed with Oliver without forcing it. The boy noticed too, asking innocent questions about why his father seemed lighter. Daniel had no easy answers, only a growing sense that maybe, just maybe, life was not finished giving him good things. Still, fear remained. On a quiet evening after work, while the city hummed outside, Daniel finally confronted the truth he had been avoiding. He acknowledged that he cared deeply for Evelyn, and that caring terrified him. Love meant vulnerability, and vulnerability meant the possibility of loss. He had lived that nightmare once and survived, but surviving did not mean he was eager to repeat it. When the moment came, it was not marked by grand gestures or dramatic confessions. It was marked by honesty. Daniel expressed his belief that love was always a risk, shaped by everything he had endured. He did not ask for reassurance or promises. He simply laid his truth on the table, raw and unpolished. Evelyn's response was not defensive or fearful. It was grounded and sincere. She did not argue with his pain or minimize his past. She asked a simple question that changed everything, one that cut through fear and reached the core of his humanity. She wondered if she was worth that risk. That question echoed in Daniel's mind for days. He saw it reflected in Oliver's laughter, in the quiet strength that had carried them through their darkest days, in the realization that avoiding pain had also meant avoiding joy. He understood then that love had always been a risk, even before loss. The difference now was that he knew its cost, and its value. Daniel chose to take the risk, not because fear disappeared, but because courage finally outweighed it. Love entered his life again, not as a replacement for what was lost, but as something new, something earned through resilience and honesty. Evelyn did not fill a void. She stood beside him, respecting the past while helping him build a future. Their story was not perfect. It was real. There were hard days, missteps, and moments of doubt. But there was also growth, partnership, and a shared commitment to showing Oliver that love, even after loss, was still possible. The boy flourished in the warmth of stability and care, learning that families could be formed not just by blood, but by choice. Years later, Daniel would look back on that rainy night in the park as the moment everything almost stayed broken. He would recognize how close he came to choosing safety over happiness, and how one honest question changed the direction of his life. Love had been a risk, yes, but it had also been the reason he truly started living again. If this story touched your heart, if it reminded you that healing is not linear and that courage often whispers instead of shouts, please take a moment now to like this video, share it with someone who might need it, and let us know how it made you feel. Your engagement helps stories like this reach others who are still sitting on that bench in the rain, wondering if life will ever be kind again. Comment if you believe that love is still worth the risk, even after everything. Because sometimes, the bravest thing a broken heart can do